Mrs. Blackburn, you made a comment during your testimony, something to the effect that that CMS disbanded the Oversight Committee. Can you elaborate on it just a little bit?
Yes, the PAOC, or the Oversight Committee, the Program Advisory and Oversight Committee, was directly put together, and CMS was mandated to put this committee together so they could have direct input from the industry leaders and other stakeholders. They had very few meetings, and in anticipation of this change, just totally ignored the fact that there was a committee there that could feed information to them and possibly educate them on how some of these aspects would be detrimental to the patients as well as to providers. And I might add that they just announced their new committee just recently in the last month.
Okay. Also, during your testimony, and because you represent an association, I'm curious, have you done any research with regards to the effect on the quality of care as a result of the lack or the bidding process that's in place right now? Has it caused a deterioration of the quality of care of the people? Have you done an assessment of that?
I personally have not done one, and I don't know that we have an assessment on paper that we can give you, but we can tell you that we have dedicated information for the 2 weeks that we had competitive bidding in play. And within those 2 weeks, we had numerous examples of patients having to go to the hospital because the contracted provider could not deliver their oxygen within the 2 to 4 hours that usually our referral sources are accustomed to receiving. They were told that they would be there within 12 to 24 hours, and in some cases 48 hours. Now, that oxygen is a life-sustaining drug, so we found that totally unacceptable. That's just one instance.
During your testimony also, and in your written testimony, you have here that the current bid program, as it's constituted, would eliminate 90% of your home providers in the marketplace. Is that your correct assessment?
90% of providers. I used the illustration of the fact that CMS has put on paper that they anticipate contracting with less than 400 providers if this new process goes through. And in those 9 MSAs, where they would contract with 400 providers, we have 4,127. The math is very simple to do.
With this constriction of the number of suppliers, have you done any research to see what kind of increased costs down the road this would be for Medicare?
I don't think I can answer that right off the top of my head. I would say this, that we did take, one of the other gentlemen did mention that we took a 9.5% cut when the delay went through with MIPA. It's my understanding, although I'm not an expert, that the goal was to save $1 billion a year. The 9.5% cut is estimated to save $1 billion. So, in effect, we possibly have paid for the substitution of competitive bidding already by accepting that cut.
Okay, well, my question is, though, because of the lack of competition down the road, have you done any sort of analysis to see because of the lack of competition what that's going to do to pricing?
Oh, we think definitely pricing will go up. It stands to reason. It stands to reason that the competitive bidding process, which will occur every 3 years, you must work on the given allowable at that point. So each time that a provider would bid on a product, they eliminate competition, they have the ability to garner the market. We feel that the cost to CMS will go up because that will be relegated to fewer providers bidding.
Okay,
if there's proof, I'm sorry, I don't have that.
But you haven't done any sort of survey or research to quantify that. So, in other words, saying that within 2 years, because the number of competitors are going to decrease, suddenly now you can probably anticipate a 10, 20, 30% increase in the cost of doing business because there's less competitors in the marketplace.
I'm from the Pittsburgh MSA, and my state association executive director just reminded me of something that was very important. Robert Morris University was included in Pittsburgh. Our state association went and got a free market analysis, and Robert Morris's study determined that this was going to create oligopolies across the nation, that there would absolutely be increased costs, and we can provide you, sir, with that that study.
Yeah, I'm sure the chairman and I would love to see some sort of documentation that shows what kind of increased costs we can anticipate, because, while the program's well-intentioned trying to decrease costs, if it does, it's the opposite. That's exactly what we're looking for, is to see where this is going to lead to.
We can absolutely get that to you. Congressman Altmaier already has that.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Mr. Brandt, you had something with regards to you talked about bonding folks who did bids. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, actually, I was saying there is no bond. You could place a bid without any financial accountability.
Is it normal in your business to place a bond on a bid?
No, we've never had this before. Even in the demonstration
But this is required in this. Are you required to do it now then?
There's no bond. Well, just to bond your company will start in the fall of 2009, $50,000 bond. But this competitive bidding project, even in the demonstration areas, you could just bid without a bond, and you could actually, after you submit your price and you're awarded, if it doesn't work out, you could just walk away. But the artificially low bid you created is stuck there for everyone else. But there was never been a bond. You didn't have to post a bond for your bid, and you still don't have to.
Have you looked into the bonding process, what it's going to cost you extra to be able to be bonded to participate down the road?
Well, again, the bonding for the company at the end of the year is the $50,000. No, I can't answer that at this time. I think we're still waiting for final rules on that bond.
That would, of course, would increase your bid.
Yeah, but again, on the competitive bidding, it won't. But yes, for sure, it would add an additional cost.
Well, even with competitive bidding, it's going to increase your bid, because you got to include that somehow, unless you're just, really nice about it and going to throw it in there.
Yeah, no, again, what I'm trying to say is I don't think it's understood compared to other competitive bid programs in government.
Yeah.
For building a building, or as Mr. Sandfield said, building an airplane, those companies have to be bonded. There was never a statement that your bid had to be bonded. Your bid still does not have to be bonded.
What's the average bid that you would, if you or one of your folks would have to a supplier or to a purchaser? What would the average, what would you, throw out for your local, whoever you're going to sell something to tomorrow? What would your average bid be of your company?
That's hard to say.
1,000, 10,000, 100,000?
Well, I mean, on each individual item, I mean, there were hundreds of items that we bid on in different categories. But, consider my company only made a 3% profit over average the last few years. We couldn't really come up with a price that was more. We pretty much knew when we put in our bid it would be just a few dollars below what the Medicare current reimbursement was, because we couldn't live with it.
Well, what I'm getting at, if you're going to be bonded, I'm trying to figure out what the size of a normal contract would be. So in other words, if you have a $30 million business and you've got, 1,000 customers, that would be a certain amount of money per bid. I mean, I was trying to get to an idea to see if this bonding is even worthwhile. I mean,
okay.
That's where I'm going with it.
Well,
or Mr. Stanfield, can you answer that?
The bonding, from my perspective, as a representative of the independent suppliers, is not a sensible process. It's simply going to eliminate another whole core of small businesses that cannot afford, as in the case of the physician here, to have a surety bond would make it impossible for a company that only does a few $1,000s a year to be able to afford that. The cost of the bond would exceed the return, much as accreditation would exceed it. We feel that the surety bond requirement has been far outweighed by the accreditation requirement, which is now mandatory, and everybody agrees that that's an important part of reducing fraud and abuse.
I would say with the amount of equipment that we would put out in an annual year with Medicare would be about $800,000. So to have a bond would be $800,000. I've checked as I think it was somewhere about $10,000 a year, additional operating costs for that type of bond.